Okay, so thank you very much. I mean, goodness me, what a presentation by Coach before. I mean, my job is now really easy because I really have to just, if you want, tell you about some research we've done to find out. We took 4 years to do this. We could have just talked to Coach here over 60 minutes, and I was just going, okay, tick, tick, tick. Now, the interesting thing is, my research was done with Olympic coaches, Olympic serial winning coaches. The interesting thing about this conference is that we're trying to build a connection between the behaviors and the mindset of these coaches right at the top, okay, and the connections to what youth coaches do. And as I was listening to Coach, who, by the way, is a serial winning coach in his own right, because he's won multiple championships, the behaviors matched within a youth sport contest. Okay, so we had a serial winning coach behaving and with the same philosophy as Olympic serial winning coaches. And that is interesting because I think there's a temptation to believe that coaches at the Olympic level or the professional level, to be successful, they need to behave in an evil way, in a non-caring, selfish way, but that is not what we found out. So let's see what we found out. Okay. So, as I say, we were very fortunate between the London 2012 and Rio 2016 games. We had the opportunity to work with coaches that had won multiple gold medals at the Olympics repeatedly. We have one coach in the sample who has won a gold medal at every Olympics since 1972. Okay? Do the maths. How many Olympics is that? 10 Olympics? A gold medal at every Olympics with different countries. Okay? That's the kind of coach that we wanted to talk to. Okay, I need to make sure that I recognize the work of Professor Cliff Mallet, who was co-leading the work with me. Cliff Mallet, and if you have time, Google Cliff Mallet and see if you can pull down some of his research. Cliff is actually a bronze medal winning coach in Australia in athletics. And he's a terrific researcher, and he's a fantastic human being. Okay, so if you're ever in Australia, just pop round to his office, knock on the door, and he will let you in, no problem, and talk about coaching with Cliff. I learned as much from the coaches as I did from Cliff doing the research. And just to give you a flavor of the kind of coaches that we had there, and some of them have authorized us to reveal their identities. Zeljko Obradovic, 9-time winner of the EuroLeague. Imagine the Champions League in football. The EuroLeague is the equivalent in basketball. He's won it 9 times with 5 different clubs. Okay? And he's also won Olympic and World Championship medals. Mike Babcock, okay, legendary ice hockey Canadian coach. Yeah, Canada, way. Marcus Weiss, 3-time Olympic gold medalist in hockey. So that's the caliber of the coach that we were interviewing. We wanted to understand what it takes to win repeatedly, okay? But we wanted to understand not only what they do, but who they are. Why do they do what they do? Okay, because so far research up to that point had always looked at the behaviors that we see. Okay, and those are important, but we need to understand why they behave in that particular way. Okay? So, as I say, in the past, we've looked at the tip of the iceberg. But in this research, we wanted to go below the surface of the water and look at what is underneath the surface. What motivates these guys to behave in the ways they do? What type of leadership behaviors allow people to develop these incredible winning records? okay, for over 30 years. I mean, on average, the coaches that we interviewed have been coaching for 30 years or more. We're going to divide the talk into two parts. In the first part, we're going to look at their behaviors, so the tip of the iceberg, the things that you can see. And we're actually going to ask you, after I've gone through it, to reflect on your own behaviors. Okay? So you're going to have to do some work. And coach said it. It's not rocket science, it's hard work. So I'm going to ask you to do some hard work today. And then we're going to look at what happens under the surface. We're going to look at their personalities and their leadership styles, okay? So let's look at the tip of the iceberg first. And we found 3 key areas where they did a lot of things. And we call them vision, people, and environment. In a nutshell, these guys have a vision. They're really clear about where they want to be and where they want to go. And they know what it's going to take to get there. Then they know they're going to have to get the right people around them to realize that vision. But most importantly, that they're going to have to create an environment where those people can realize the vision. So it sounds simple, but it's easier said than done. So let's have a look at what they actually did to go through this. In terms of the vision, a few things came up. Look at the last word there, philosophy. Everything, and again, this came through really clearly from Coach's talk. The philosophy, their values and beliefs were central to how they do things. So they had a really clear vision of what they wanted to achieve, underpinned by a very, very, very strong philosophy. Now, this is really interesting. These guys have 20/20 vision. They can see into the future. It's like they got a crystal ball. So I remember after the Rio Olympics, this coach that has won a medal at every Olympics since 1972, I came to see him and he said to me, Sergio, this is really simple. I know that to win a gold medal in Rio, we need to be able to take 5 seconds of the time we ran in London, and I need to know that my team is going to have to do that on the 16th of August, 2016, at 1:35 p.m. because that's when our race is. And he was telling me this 4 years in advance, and he was saying, and my job is really easy. I just need to work out where the 5 seconds are going to come from. And I don't know if that's going to come from the equipment, from the athletes, from the nutrition, but I'm going to spend the next few months working it out, and then we're going to work backwards, and that's it. And lo and behold, on the 16th of August at 1:35 p.m., 4 years later, they won another gold medal. Okay, so again, easier said than done. But that clarity of this is what we need to do, and we're going to break that down because it is a complex picture, break that down into simple components, decide which components we can have an impact on and which ones we can, and really act on those. That's what these guys did. So they can simplify that complexity, which is really important because we can get lost in the details sometimes when coaching. And then they just plan. They plan the hell out of everything. Okay, they're really compulsive planners. They don't like the unexpected. They deal with it, but they try and minimize it. And they're just constantly reviewing and adjusting because nothing is perfect. And in the environment of sport, things change every minute. Okay, we can't just have the same plan every day. All right, so that's the vision component. Okay? So what about people? These guys were not ashamed. For example, Zeljko Obradovic, the guy that's won 9 European Championships, he said to me, well, why should I be ashamed of this? I've won 9 European Championships because I had the best players in Europe. But what I'm proud of is that I was able to find the best players because they were available to everybody, but I got the best players that suited me and as a team could play well together. So yes, I had great players, but I had to find them. So it's about getting the right people on the bus with you. But again, that's not only athletes, that's the people around you. Coach was talking about his teachers, the teachers that he had working with him, that they were great people, very caring and very hardworking. And that's half the battle. If you're surrounded by good people, you can achieve a lot more. Okay? Someone said to me not long ago that the secret to delegation is understanding that 10 small candles give much more light than one single big one. Okay, so these guys were very clear on this. Let's really get the right people and let's get everybody to contribute. And then let's get people to believe. These guys went out of their way to get people to believe. And believe in three things. Believe in the coach. So they went out of their way to make sure that people believed in what they do. And there were very simple strategies like hard work again. They demonstrated constantly how thoroughly they planned and how hard they worked. And that created a culture, a lived culture, okay? I travel a lot through my work, which is great, and I get to see a lot of high performance training environments, okay? And I love it that in the pretty much everywhere I go, the walls are covered with slogans that, around commitment and effort. But what I've found out over the years is that all those things are nice and they look great, but they're empty words if the people inside the building do not follow up with the right behaviors. Because again, there's a lot of research that says that people see a lot more what you do than what you say. Think about that as a coach. You might be saying a lot of things, but if then your behaviors are different, that's what the children are going to take away. Okay? So these guys really went out of their way to develop belief in themselves, develop the athletes to believe in the athletes themselves, okay? But also to believe in the group, that we can achieve together much more than individually. And interestingly, and I don't know how much this applies to you, okay, in your context, but I think we all have our own entourage, wherever we coach, even if we coach in youth sport, where you have to manage a team around you. And in your case, sometimes the team might be the parents. That might be your team, because they are your support staff, if you want. But we have to manage our teams around us, not just the athletes. Everybody else around you that has an impact. Okay? And these guys, what they said is that they actually manage upwards. So, okay, these guys are Olympic coaches, but they felt that their job wasn't just to manage downwards their athletes or the support staff, but to really influence upwards the CEO of the federation, the performance director. Okay? And again, we saw that with Coach here, where he was influencing the board of directors of the school. And by the way, you're probably the only coach in the history of coaching that gets given $5,000 and gives $4,000 back. Okay? Seriously, for that alone, you deserve a medal. Okay? A medal worth $4,000. Okay? Okay. And then about the environment. Okay, what kind of environment are we creating so these people that we've managed to get into the system can develop that, can realize that vision? And this is where we found some surprises really in the study. Yes, there are really high expectations and a high level of demands. Because at the end of the day, we want to be the best in the world at whatever we are doing. We want to win a gold medal every Olympics. So that has to be there. Again, hard work, you can't escape hard work at this level. Okay? But, okay, there were a few things that went with that. So part of the hard work is leaving no stone unturned. Okay? And really thinking outside the box. Reviewing all the literature, seeing what other people are doing. These guys were constantly looking for new edges, something that is going to give you a bit of an edge, okay? A 1%er, as people call it, okay? And you have to create a challenging training environment. What does this mean? And I'll go through this in more detail later. But raising the bar all the time. As soon as they achieve a goal, move it on. Don't let people get complacent. That was a key thing for them. Not only for the athletes, but for the support staff. Always pushing people along. Don't let people get complacent. and they created a greenhouse around them. I really like this, because the interesting thing about the study is that we were able to study 17 coaches, but we also studied 23 of their athletes. Because again, we know coaches can tell very good stories about themselves. We love to praise ourselves, okay? So we wanted to get the two sides of the story from the coach and the athlete. And from the athlete, we found that what they really liked about the coach is that they were stable and dependable. We had a really, really sad story, although with a happy ending, of an athlete that was saying, look, for the first 18 months of me working with this coach, it was a disaster. Because this coach would lose his temper every session. So I wasn't giving my sessions 100% because I was saving energy to be able to deal with the coach's outbursts. And it was only when they sat down with the coach and they say, I'm sorry, but if we carry on like this, we're going to have to change coaches. And the coach realized the impact that it was having on the athletes, that they could then put 100% into training, as opposed to saying, well, today I'm going to give 70% and I'm going to leave 30% there to deal with the fallout. Okay? And they went on to win a gold medal. Okay? But it's difficult. And the key thing is that the problem with this coach was that he came from a different culture. In a culture where you could be really shouty and really in your face, to a culture where you couldn't do that. And he had to change and he had to adapt. And that's a great thing about these coaches, they're able to adapt as well. Okay? Because they want to win, they'll do whatever it takes to win. So if it's change that it takes, they will change. And like I was saying, these guys, to create the right environment, influence up and down. They don't think my job is to... It goes back to the picture I showed of the pyramid before about the role of the coach. Your job is not just to put cones down. You're an influencer. You're an environmental architect. You need to think beyond, like coach, saying, what do we need? We need eggs and milk. How do I get eggs and milk? Is that the job of a coach? Well, it is. It is, because it's part of, it impacts on your athletes, right? So it is your job. Okay. So that's a quick summary of these first 3 points. And at this point is when I'm going to ask you to start doing some work. In your fantastic packs, okay, you're going to find a self-assessment questionnaire, okay? So all you have to do right now, okay, on your own, in your tables, is in 2 or 3 minutes, just go down the list and tick the box that applies to you. So there's 3 sections: vision, people, and environment, with the points that I just raised. And all we want you to do now is just to evaluate where you think you are in each of those areas in your coaching. And there are 3 options for each of the areas. You can give yourself a thumbs up, which means that you're really happy with your performance in that area, that you're very good at it. Neutral thumb, okay, where it means, hey, I'm okay, but I could get better. Or you could give yourselves a thumb down, where you feel that actually that's a weakness of yours, that is something that you could really drastically improve in your coaching. Are you happy with the instructions? You understand what you need to do, yeah? Okay, I'll give you a few minutes to do that. What I'd like to do now very quickly is to ask 3 people to volunteer 3 things. So I want someone to volunteer to say something that they're really happy about, that they really feel they do very well as a coach. I want someone to talk about something that they feel they could do a little bit better. And I want someone to be really brave and admit to something that they think they should really, really improve a lot. And I'll lead the way in that area, for example. So something that I think I really need to get much better at is, and this is going to sound a little bit harsh, but letting go of people that don't benefit my organization. And the problem with myself is that I want to be friends with everybody and I want to love everybody. But sometimes, if someone is not the right person for your organization, you have to let them go. And I struggle to do that, okay? So I need to be better at that. Okay, so can someone share something that they feel they do really, really well as coaches? Don't be shy, guys. I know you're not shy because you're coaches, and I've seen you play rock, paper, scissors. Come on. Do you want me to volunteer you? Anybody? Oh, yes, we've got someone there. Thank you.
Hi. Thanks for holding this session. I think okay. So I'll just take that first step and talk about what I think I do well. I think developing the belief in me and getting others to trust my ability is I think that's a strong point. I've gone so far as to actually engage my audience or my athletes on social media as well, and really putting my name out there on social media and just saying, hey, this is what I do. You know, not everything is smooth sailing, but you know, I love the challenge of being a coach. I love the job, basically.
Okay, great, thank you. So don't, stay up.
Yep, okay.
Because I think we're going to stick with you for now. So now tell me, was there anything that you marked yourself as an area where you are so-and-so, or where you really feel you need to improve?
Like probably understanding the audience. If you think of your athletes as the audience, or even the people who support them as, and they look up to you, or they see you as somebody who is an opinion leader or a subject matter expert in the sport, it's about getting them to understand what you're about. No, so I'm still trying to get to terms with that, and I think something that I'm learning now is how to empathize, to really show empathy for the people I work with, and that includes the athletes.
And that's so important, and so easy to forget about, really. But that knowing your audience and showing empathy is a massive thing. So well done, sir, for sharing that with us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now that we've broken the ice, thank you for that. Would someone else like to share anything they found, or any thoughts that came to your head while you were doing the questionnaire, or even while you were listening to Coach Subramanian? Because I think it was really timely. A lot of the things that Coach was describing were really in the serial winning coaches study. Anybody else? You are a shy bunch. Well, listen, I'm going to let you off and we're going to move on. But I warn you, at the end of the session, there's another interactive activity. So get ready for that one. So, so far, we've seen what's at the tip of the iceberg. Okay? But I really want to look now at what's under the water. What kind of personality traits or leadership behaviors or philosophy and values inform what these coaches do? So, we had a few surprises really in the study, because what happened is, I've watched all the American sport movies that a man can watch in 40 years, okay? All of them, some of them multiple times. And I've read all the coaching biographies you can read. And I was kind of expecting these super coaches, these serial winning coaches, to be a cross between Count Dracula and a wicked witch of the West. That's what I thought these guys would be like. But we didn't see much of that. Yeah, there were a few traits that you could claim to be a little bit selfish, but not many. Okay? In the main, these guys operated on a continuum that we called driven benevolence. And I'm going to explain what that means in a second. Okay? Now, before I do that, I need to warn you. There are no magic recipes. Okay? all 17 coaches were different, and I'm just trying to pull out some key principles that we saw in these coaches. But again, you need to be mindful that you work in different contexts and you need to make this work for you. So no magic recipes, but some principles for you to use in your context. What is driven benevolence? It is the relentless pursuit of excellence, balanced with a genuine desire to compassionately support athletes and oneself. Okay? And again, coach really illustrated this. So you want to be a serial winner, it's not just about the relentless pursuit of excellence. You need to bring people along with you, and you need to look after them, genuinely. Because think about this. To become a serial winning coach, to stay in coaching for 60 years, that doesn't happen if you're a bad person. Because you will get found out. And particularly in this day and age, back to the social media thing, people talk to each other. And when coaches are not good to people, the athletes that I interviewed for this project were saying, man, the days of the dictatorial coach are over. Because athletes don't want to work for that kind of coach. And we talk to each other. We don't want to go to a coach that is that way. Those days are over. It's a partnership now. Okay? So that's something that really was a bit of a surprise, in a sense. But that's what these guys do. They are as comfortable, again, let's not kid ourselves, pushing people beyond the boundaries of what's humanly possible, because that is high-performance sport. But they're as comfortable doing that as they are sitting down over a cup of coffee to discuss their athletes' finances, their education, their love relationships, their family fights, because they see the whole person, not just the Olympic athlete. Okay? So again, a bit of a surprise there, because I thought that they were going to be all on the driven side and only driven, but they came across as really humane. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, you need to interpret driven, being determined within a youth sport context. Okay, let me remind you of that again. Children are not mini adults. Okay? And all of these things that I'm going to talk about apply to children, but in a different way. They're not mini adults. Okay. So, I said before that underneath the surface of the iceberg, there are a number of things that we need to be mindful. But the first one is the values and beliefs of the coaches. Big surprise. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some of them. Because again, I was expecting Count Dracula. They felt the athlete was the compass. We talked about being athlete-centered. Everything they did, in the main, was guided by the best interest of the athlete. And the best interest long-term. Okay? I'm not going to say that everything they did was like that, because there are other pressures within high performance. But they knew that if they strayed too far from the athletes being the compass, that wasn't great. They didn't like that. They had a really high moral stance. Okay? Values like honesty, integrity, loyalty, respect, trust, those came through the study all the time. And their athletes confirmed this. They felt, remember when I said about in the greenhouse to be dependable and stable? That was so important for the athletes, that they could bank on their coach, because they could trust their coach. And even though they knew their coach would push them to the limit, they knew there were limits. And there were boundaries. You know, that high moral stance. But let me show you the next thing, because it was one of the biggest surprises of the study for me. I've been a performance coach. I've been a national team coach, okay? Work-life balance. Wow. Okay? We think, or no, we don't think, I was a national team coach who thought that I had to work 24 hours a day, 8 days a week. Okay? And it turns out that these guys work really hard, there's no kidding, okay? Because I don't know, Lorraine really pointed this out to me a couple of years ago. Work-life balance is relative. Because these guys don't work a 9-to-5 job. But even within this craziness of the high-performance environment, there is a relative balance. So let me give you an example. One of the coaches said to me, normally, on an average year, I spend 220 days away from home in competition and training with my athlete. And I think I've got a pretty good balance. And I was like, whoa, okay, explain that to me. And he said, well, it's simple. So when I'm away, I try to keep in touch with family and friends, even if it is a WhatsApp message every day. I try to eat healthily, I try to exercise, and I try to sleep, okay, to stay balanced. I know I'm going to be away for 220 days, but I have some control over what happens in those 220 days. And then when I'm home, I am truly home. I throw my mobile phone in the garbage and make sure that I'm present for my family. But this same coach was saying, I've not always been like that. He actually had a mental breakdown 10 years before, and he had to learn the hard way. My advice to you, because I've been there, don't let it get to that point, because it's not pretty, okay? Yes, you have to work hard, but remember, you have to look after yourself, because if you don't look after yourself, how are you going to look after all the others? Okay? Look after yourself. Be selfish. Okay? I know that word has really negative connotations, but you have to be selfish a little bit and look after yourself. You can help the others. It's that simple. It's black and white. Okay? So a big surprise there. Okay. But let's go really now into what it means to be driven. We've talked about this already. These guys have unwavering high standards, right? Relentless, okay? But it is a lived culture. They don't really live by slogans or nice documents. They live it. I walked into some of these training environments, and the moment I walked in there, I felt like I had to behave in a particular way and be the best version of myself, because everybody around me was being the best version of themselves. And I was there as a visitor, and I really got that feeling, okay? They lead by example, okay? Your athletes are always watching you, always. It's like your children, okay? As a parent, you think they're not listening. You think they are on their mobile phones, on their PlayStations. They are watching. They are watching all the time. You have to raise the bar constantly. The moment they reach a goal, you got to set another goal. Don't let people rest on their laurels. Keep them going. Now, these coaches were perfectionists, and that's dangerous, okay? It's a really fine balance. That perfectionism made them never be happy and keep going. But again, they had to learn to balance that with being a very unhappy person, because you're never perfect, because perfection doesn't exist, okay? And we'll see how they counterbalance that later on. And you have to control the controllables. There are so many things in high-performance sport or in life that you have no control over. But the ones that you do have control over, you should control. Okay? And one thing they say, for example, is that they can forgive mistakes. There are genuine mistakes, but they cannot deal with blunders. Mistakes that come through carelessness. Okay? So these guys were very quick to get rid of people that blundered, if you want, because that's not acceptable in this environment. You have to take care of business. Okay. So I love this one. I'm only going to tell you a story about this one. These guys had a real high sense of purpose. They thought that what they were doing was much bigger than themselves, much bigger than just winning a gold medal. It was like something larger, okay? And for some of them it was national pride. They really wanted to do well for their nations. For some of them it was, my job impacts on my athletes. They said, the life of the athlete is only going to have 1 or 2 chances to win a medal. I'm going to have 20 or 30 over the years. So they felt really responsible for their athletes. But let me tell you a quick story about this guy, this British coach, really old coach. that said to me, when I said to him, so why is this so important to you? Why is winning so important to you? And he looked at me and went like, he looked at me like I was from a different planet, right? He said, don't you get it, lad? He said to me, what do you mean? And he did this. I haven't got it with me, but he took out a £5 note and he opened it and he said to me, this is who I work for. Okay? That's what I need to win. For Queen Elizabeth. And at that point, I started giggling because I thought he was joking. And then I stopped giggling because he looked at me like, you don't get it. I'm serious. The same evening, I interviewed 2 of his athletes. And you know what the first thing they said to me? Did he get the £5 note out? And I said, yes, he did. And they said to me, he carries a £5 note in his pocket all the time for the last 40 years. Because when someone is slackening, he goes, this is who we work for. So not everybody was as extreme as that story, but they have a real high sense of duty. So anyway, I don't know what the equivalent in your notes is, but you might want to have one of those in your pocket. I don't think credit cards work with this, or PayPal. Okay. I found that really interesting. I mean, no surprise there. They have a pathological desire to win. Now, what I found interesting is where this came from. A lot of them were making up for the shortcomings of their past. Okay? They had been, in their words, even though out of the 17, 14 had been Olympians. Okay, that's an interesting fact. 14 of these coaches were Olympians themselves. They didn't achieve at the Olympics. Only one of them won a medal as an athlete. So they were making up. Okay, and there were different reasons why they didn't make it or why they didn't win a medal, but they were clearly making up. Okay, it was revenge time for them, if you want. Okay, and they needed to prove themselves. These guys have, we call them serial winners, but interestingly, and they confirm this, they came across as serially insecure people. And that's why they were constantly working hard and constantly preparing, because they were serially insecure. Now, for me, that was a revelation, okay? Because I'm no serial winner, but I've always felt as a coach that I was very insecure, and I saw that as a negative thing. But these guys told me, no, that's a good thing, because that's what gets you out of bed every morning and makes you work hard. The fact that you don't think you've got all the answers, and you have to go out there and find them, because that's what this is about. Finding the answers, solving problems. So when you're insecure, just work harder. Don't let it affect you. That's a fine thing. And that was really, for me personally, that was life-changing, really. Understanding that your insecurities can actually fuel your performance. Turn them around. Okay. So, all right, that was another thing. These guys are all in. They don't do half measures, okay? And they take a lot of risk, okay? Some of them are crazy. So we had another coach. This is an speed skating coach. Speed skating, I take it there isn't a lot of speed skating in Singapore because of the weather, or there is? There is some? Okay, good. Well, this guy is from a very cold country in Europe, and after he finished his Olympic career, not winning a medal, he wanted to coach. And he got offered jobs in his country and in the US. And he said, no, I'm not ready to coach at that level. I need to go and coach for a few years somewhere where I can really make mistakes and really learn to coach. So you know where he went to? To coach speed skating, ice, to a Caribbean country. Okay? Because that's what he needed to do. And it was a big risk, because he could have backfired and he would have never got an offer to work in a more developed country in ice skating terms, okay? But he went there, and he spent 3 years making mistakes. He said, well, in the Caribbean, no one cares about speed skating. So I could try everything and fail a million times and learn. Whereas if he'd done that in his own country, he would have been sacked a month into the job. Okay? So big risk, but he paid out. But these guys are fully committed, all out. No half measures. They're very proactive decision makers. They don't hesitate. They see something that needs fixing and they do it. And they take risks. For us, they might look like crazy risks. For them, they're pretty calculated. We talked about vision before, so I'm going to skim over this because we saw vision in the other section. And let's talk about benevolence, because if all we do is to be driven, that's not going to last long because we're dealing with people. So a big part of benevolence is people first. And again, that was a big surprise because we talked about people first, children first, athletes second in the previous presentation, but we never thought we were going to see this with these guys. But when you were when you were reading the feedback from your athletes, that's the same feedback that we got from the athletes of these guys. They talk about them as parents, role models, mentors, friends, people that genuinely cared about them. So that's an important thing that we can't forget, that even at this level, that is going on, and it leads to success. Okay? We have to balance the challenge and the support that we provide them. It can't just be challenge all the time. We have to be dependable and stable. I mean, again, for me, that was a really, really real eye-opener. Am I dependable? Am I stable for my athletes? Or am I blowing hot and cold every day? Because I am Spanish originally. We blow hot and cold, okay? Genetically, all right? And they have to be very emotionally and socially intelligent. They need to be really aware of how they feel and how the people feel. And this is at the Olympic level, where we felt it was all going to be cutthroat. It wasn't, okay? Again, these guys talked a lot about if you want to be understood, first seek to understand. Spend time knowing your athletes. What makes them tick? You're going to be asking these athletes to do extremely difficult things. So if you don't know what makes them tick, what motivates them, and you think that everybody's motivated by the same thing, it's not going to cut it. Okay? You need to share your leadership. That's what these guys are saying. A lot of them had gone from being really dictatorial in their early days to realizing that you need to bring people along the journey with you. And again, the athletes, because some of the athletes have been working with the same coach for 10 years, and they said that the biggest change, we asked them, what's the biggest change in your coach over the last few years? This. Going from being very dictatorial and very my way to a lot more collaborative and a partnership. Partnership is the key word, really. And using persuasion rather than imposition. Okay? So that's an interesting one there. And for me, related to the one before around the looking after yourself, that came through really strongly in the research. These coaches were optimistic, and they knew that no matter how bad your day was, the sun is going to rise again the following day, and you're gonna have another chance to fight. So they get over setbacks really quickly, because failures are the pillars of success. I love the way you put that, sir. And they have very thick skin. Yeah, and that's not a bad thing. You need it. You know, in any profession that requires pressure, you need thick skin, because things go wrong all the time. And you shouldn't be upset about that, because that's the way it is. Okay, again, there's no point in getting worked up about those things, because that's the nature of the game. And that was an interesting one. Okay, I was telling you I'm Spanish. I go like this with my emotions. Okay, these guys said no, you need to be like this, because the amount of energy that you waste going here and then there and then there is not healthy. Okay, so even when you win, okay, celebrate, but then go back to the flat tone as soon as you can, because in the flat tone, that's where your decision making is at their best, and when you're emotionally more stable. And these guys were saying that, okay, at the highest level. And accept reality, like I was saying. Bad things happen in performance sport. Don't dwell on them, just move on, because it's the only way. Okay, so just a quick summary there for you. I want you to do now, is to in your tables for 5 minutes, go through these in your tables and talk about them. You know, how do they apply? What does that mean in a youth sport context? Maybe start thinking, which ones of these do I do really well? Or which ones should I maybe improve? Just have a general conversation about this. And what I'd like you to do is, on your tables, there is a piece of paper, a flip chart, and some markers. So if someone on the table can take responsibility for writing down some of the key points, bullet points of the discussions that you have, that would be great. Can you do that for me? Go ahead, 5 minutes, okay? So I can see you're all really engaging in the discussion, and I hate to break it up, okay? But can we have anybody from any of the tables quickly share what the discussion was about? Yeah? Okay, so we got that in the middle. Table 16.
Yeah, so in our group, I think on the driven side, we totally agree with 4 out of 5 as youth coaches compared to Olympic coaches. The one that we might change slightly is the pathological desire to win. We'll leave the last 3 words there. We'll take out the first word. Yeah.
But explain a bit more about the why. Why was that important to you?
To us, I think we put down here in our notes, athlete development on a holistic level is more important first, so the individual first, and then performance will come. But at that level, I think it's performance, high performance.
Thank you. And you said, and on the other side, on the benevolence, did you talk about that as well?
We didn't get there.
You didn't get there, yeah,
Yeah.
no problem. Okay, any other tables? Thank you for that. Any other? You were all talking about it because I saw you. Yeah, we got a contribution here. Thank you.
Hi, we were just sharing about the people first. Because I was sharing with them about the experience I had when I entered to a swimming pool. I always greet my student, good morning. And it was next to a coach, I don't mention name, and this coach say, "What's so good about morning?" in front of my students. I think, oh, some of you do it, is it? So I think that's very important not to do that, you know, even within the coaches itself. I think the face expression, smile, you know, I know the kids are going for training, but if you see the face like, there's a Thai soup called Tom Yum soup. Like, pull your long face. I think that won't be a good day. Yeah, so we say people first, you know, within the coaches itself, before you actually can give example to your students. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, because it makes a massive difference, really. One thing that I've started doing this year, we've taken that approach. I went to France, to the National Institute of Sport, to talk about this. And then they gave me a tour of the facilities there. And what was really interesting to me, all the youth athletes there, as I was walking around the place, every time I bumped into an athlete, they came to me and they shook my hand. And they said, "Good afternoon, sir, how are you?" Every athlete. Because the first one I thought, oh, what a polite young man, okay? But it was every athlete. And when I spoke to them, it was because that's what they do. Okay, so the coaches come in there, and as soon as they walk into the facility, they shake everybody's hand. Okay, really old-fashioned handshake, strong handshake, but it's just built that sense of respect between each other, acknowledging each other, looking each other in the eye. How are you today? And I've started doing that with my guys at my club, and it's amazing the transformation, because now they come in and they seek me out and they come and go. How are you, coach? And they go around and they do the same to the parents of the other kids. So every adult they come across, they shake hands with them. It's blown my mind. So paying attention to them like that and, seeing the person first, it's unbelievable. Okay, we're going to move on and we're going to finish. I just want to, because I think this is funny. It might not be funny, but that's me, okay? I'm going to skip through this. Okay. At the end, after we looked at them, we thought, okay, so who are these serial winners? What type of characters are they? What are they really like? And we came up with 2 characters that kind of symbolize the 2 types of people that we found in the serial winners. And the first one is Indiana Jones. Now, I'm going to show my age. I know who Indiana Jones is. I watched all the movies. When I showed this slide to my students at the university, they were like, Indiana who? Who's Indiana Jones? Because the new generations don't really know. It's really sad. So Indiana Jones, what's Indiana Jones like? So he's an adventurous avenger, okay? He's a little selfish, can be, okay? He needs to prove himself all the time, that serial insecurity. But he's good at heart. He's doing it for the greater good. Have you watched the movies? It's always for the greater good, okay? For the right cause. And he's ready to die for it. It's all in commitment, okay? In every movie, he nearly dies 5 times, okay? Okay, but the other coaches that we found, some of them were more like Gandhi, okay? Again, I mean, it's bad that they don't know who Indiana Jones was, but that they don't know who Gandhi was, that worries me more, okay? The higher purpose altruist. Okay, for the greater good. Ready to really take some personal sacrifice for the greater good. The right cause, but with a steely determination. So, yeah, greater good and personal sacrifice, but not a pushover. Steely determination. And then what we found is that whether they fell into one of the 2 categories, they all shared a 3rd character. And it's this one. They all had a little bit of Homer Simpson in them to keep them fresh and to keep them happy, to normalize a job that is anything but normal. Okay? So we call that the grounded realist. The Homer Simpson is the one that understands that happens and you have to get on with it. Okay? And that you need to look after yourself and have some personal recovery. So I don't know if you're Indiana Jones or Gandhi, but I would really recommend you that you become more like Homer sometimes. Okay? And that's me done. Thank you very much. Thank you.